We've always done Christmas at my parents' house. It's a mid-sized, craftsman-style home in a quiet Michigan suburb. Snow on the driveway, too many nutcracker figurines on the mantel, and my dad's signature honey-glazed ham in the oven. That year was no different. We were all there. My parents, my Uncle Gary, Dad's younger brother, his wife Sandra, my teenage sister Anna, and me. Dinner was fine, until it wasn't. We'd just finished dessert, pecan pie and store-bought cookies, when Uncle Gary reached for another glass of bourbon. He was always a little too loud after 2 drinks, and way too honest after 3. And this time, he didn't stop at 3. He leaned back, looked at my mom across the table, and said with this weird, slurred smirk, "Hey, remember that snowstorm in 2006 when you and I got stranded at that cabin near Traverse City? Good times. Bet my brother still thinks it was all innocent, huh?" No one laughed. My mom's face froze. Not shocked, just blank, like someone pulled the power plug. My dad set his fork down, slowly, deliberately. His eyes didn't move from his plate, but his whole posture shifted like someone bracing for impact. Anna didn't say anything, which, if you know her, was the first red flag. She's 16, sarcastic as hell, and never quiet. But right then, she looked down at her lap, biting her bottom lip so hard it turned white. Uncle Gary, realizing he'd misread the room, tried to play it off with a loud, fake laugh. "Come on, it was just a joke. Geez, lighten up." But nobody did. That night, something cracked in the room. Not loud, not even visible, but real. And I think, deep down, we all knew it. I couldn't sleep that night. It wasn't just what Uncle Gary said. It was how he said it. Like it wasn't even meant to be a joke. Like he'd been holding it in for years and finally let it slip, disguised under cheap bourbon and holiday noise. I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles, wondering if I was overreacting. But something in my gut felt off. And the more I tried to ignore it, the louder it got. The thing is, that moment at dinner didn't come out of nowhere. It stirred up fragments, things I'd noticed but never questioned. Like how my grandma once said, "Anna's got Gary's eyes," then quickly changed the subject. Or how Anna's blood type didn't quite make sense when she had to get labs done last year. My dad's O negative, my mom's A positive. Anna, AB. I remember Googling it and thinking, that's not possible. But I brushed it off. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it didn't matter. But now it felt like those little things weren't random. They were puzzle pieces I'd been ignoring. The house was weirdly quiet the week after Christmas. Mom spent more time on the phone than usual. Dad stayed out late, said he was just catching up on errands. They avoided each other like polite strangers. Then I heard it, not yelling, not screaming, just low voices, tense, controlled. It was the kind of argument you only hear from people who are past the phase of fighting to win and are now just trying not to explode. A couple days later, Dad took a day off work. He never does that. That evening, I walked past his study and saw a printed form on his desk. The letterhead said, 23andMe. Underneath, DNA kit activation. His name was already filled in. The results came in about 2 weeks later. Dad didn't say anything at first. I only knew because I caught him sitting alone in the garage, door closed, no lights on, just staring at the DNA report like it was an obituary. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, holding a truth no one should ever have to read. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Anna wasn't his. That same night, he slept on the couch. The next day, he booked a hotel room to clear his head. 2 days later, he packed a suitcase. No big blowout, no dramatic goodbye. Just a folded note on the kitchen counter. I can't stay in a house where everything I believed was a lie. Please take care of Anna. And then he left. My mom didn't chase him. For the first 48 hours, she barely spoke. She just moved through the house like she was underwater, folding laundry that didn't need folding, cleaning already clean counters, making tea she never drank. Then, one morning, I walked downstairs and found her sitting at the table with her laptop open and her credit card out. She was ordering her own DNA test. She never said why. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was denial. Or maybe some part of her still hoped there'd been a mistake. When her results arrived, she opened them alone in the kitchen. I came in halfway through and saw her hands trembling. She didn't say anything, just turned the screen toward me. And there it was. Biological father, Gary M. 99.998% match. I think she expected me to scream or walk out. But I couldn't feel anything at all. It was like the whole house had stopped breathing. There was a part of me that wanted to blame her. My mom, I mean. But then I saw her one night, sitting on the floor outside Anna's bedroom, knees tucked to her chest, head pressed against the door. She wasn't sobbing, no gasping, just quiet tears, like she was trying to grieve without making a sound. That image stuck with me more than any yelling ever could. She looked less like a villain and more like someone who'd been running from a decision for so long, she forgot it ever had a finish line. She never knocked, never opened the door, just sat there for maybe 20 minutes, then stood up and walked away like it never happened. Anna didn't ask questions. She didn't accuse, didn't demand answers. She just shut down. She stopped taking selfies, something she used to do almost daily, stopped checking her appearance in the mirror before school, stopped texting friends back. She became a shadow of herself. Always wearing oversized hoodies, earbuds in, eyes fixed somewhere far away, even when she was right in front of you. One afternoon, I walked past her room and saw her staring at an old photo of our family from Disney World. We were in front of the castle, Dad with his goofy hat, Mom smiling too hard, me awkwardly holding a churro. And Anna, about 8 years old, on Dad's shoulders, laughing so hard her sunglasses were slipping off. Now she looked at that photo like she was watching a movie she didn't remember acting in. I didn't know how to talk to her. I didn't even know what to say. Because how do you explain to your sister, your blood, or maybe not your blood at all, that her entire identity might have been built on someone else's lie? How do you tell a 16-year-old that the man who raised her isn't her biological father, but the man who made her is the same one who joked about it over Christmas dinner? You don't. So I didn't. I just started sitting next to her on the couch in silence. And for a while, that's all we had. Silence and shared disbelief. It started with a drawer, one of those old, heavy ones in Dad's study that always stuck halfway when you tried to open it. I wasn't snooping, not exactly. I was looking for a charger he used to keep in there. At least, that's what I told myself. What I found instead was a folder labeled Anna, Medical. There were vaccination records, school health forms, and tucked between them, a manila envelope. No label, just a faint crease like it had been folded and unfolded a dozen times. Inside, a printout from a lab. Paternity test results. Date, 6 years ago. Anna was 11. Client name, David T. My dad. My throat closed up as I scanned the page. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Same words, same gut punch. But this time, it wasn't new. He had already known. He'd known for 6 years. And he'd stayed. He'd driven her to soccer practice, helped her build a cardboard volcano for her 5th grade science fair, danced with her at the daddy-daughter banquet in 6th grade, all while knowing. I sat on the floor, folder open in my lap, shaking, not because I was angry, but because the weight of his silence suddenly made sense. Dad didn't talk much about emotions. He was one of those Midwestern dads who showed love by fixing your car or setting the thermostat just right before a snowstorm. Not a hugger, not a talker. But he showed up. And now I understood why he left without a fight. It wasn't rage. It wasn't pride. It was heartbreak. Because he had already grieved this once, privately, and chose to stay. For Anna. For us. But then Christmas happened, and that awful, reckless joke from Gary wasn't just a reminder of betrayal. It was a public humiliation. A stain on something he had chosen to forgive in silence. I cried harder than I had in months. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because for the first time, I saw what real love looked like. Not the kind that posts about itself on Facebook. Not the kind that demands loyalty. The quiet kind. The kind that stays, even when it knows the truth. I tried talking to her. At first, it was simple stuff. Asking if she wanted to go get ice cream. Offering to watch that ridiculous dating show she used to hate watch with me. She'd shrug, mumble, "I'm good," and disappear into her room. I tried hugs. She stood stiff like I was a stranger at the airport. Eventually, I just stopped trying to fix it and started just existing near her. I'd sit on the opposite end of the couch while she scrolled silently. We'd eat cereal at the same table and never speak. I thought that was rock bottom. I was wrong. One night, I got up to use the bathroom around 2 a.m. and noticed a soft light coming from Anna's room. Her door was cracked open. She was standing in front of the mirror, motionless, still in her hoodie and pajama shorts. Just staring. Then I noticed what was in her hand. Scissors. Her other hand was clenched at her side, knuckles white. Scissors. Her other hand was clenched at her side, knuckles white. I stepped into the room so quietly I barely heard my own breath. I didn't want to scare her. I just whispered, "Hey, you okay?" She didn't look at me, didn't flinch, didn't hide the scissors. She just blinked slowly and said in a voice that didn't sound like hers, "If I'm not really anyone's daughter, then what am I even here for?" I felt something inside me shatter. It wasn't just sadness, it was helplessness, raw and loud. Like I'd been swimming for hours trying to keep her afloat, only to realize she'd already gone under. I gently took the scissors from her hand. She didn't fight me. I led her to sit down on the bed, wrapped her in a blanket, and just sat there with her until the sun started to rise. No lectures, no explanations, just presence. Because I finally understood. She didn't need answers. She needed someone who wouldn't leave. Something shifted in me that night. Watching Anna unravel in silence, while everyone else either left or lied. I couldn't let that be her story. I refused to let her grow into the same kind of haunted silence that had consumed my mother. Or worse, to build relationships on a foundation so cracked, she'd never trust anyone again. If no one was going to protect her, I would. Not by comforting words, not by false reassurances, but by doing the one thing no one else had done, telling the damn truth. I started small. I went through my phone and found an old voice memo from 2 years ago, one I didn't even remember saving. It was during a late-night call between my mom and me, right after an argument she'd had with my dad. She was panicked, emotional, her words sloppy but revealing. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just once. I thought it wouldn't matter. But then I saw Anna's face and I knew. Back then, I didn't understand what she meant. Now it hit like a freight train. Then I found something else, an old messenger audio clip from last Christmas, before the disaster. Uncle Gary had sent me a rambling, drunk voice message after a party. "If your dad ever finds out, well, guess it's too late now. Not like I regret it. I mean, look at her. Anna's got my smile." I remember deleting it from the chat, but I'd backed it up. Because some part of me had already started preparing for war, even then. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I started writing. Not a diary, not a social media rant, a script, a structured, clear, fact-checked timeline of everything. What was said when it happened? Who knew what, and who chose silence? Not for drama, for documentation, for truth, for Anna. And maybe for me too. Because when the people you're supposed to count on fall apart, sometimes all you have left is the record. His name was Micah. We met in undergrad. He was the soft-spoken guy in film theory, who carried a notebook everywhere and never raised his hand, but always had something smart to say when he finally did. We hadn't talked in years, but I knew he was now making indie documentaries, mostly quiet, haunting pieces about forgotten stories and overlooked people. I sent him an email with the subject line, "I have a story. It's personal, and it's not pretty." He responded within an hour. We met the next day. I laid it all out. The Christmas dinner, the DNA tests, the voice memos, the photos, the silence. He listened for a long time, then finally asked, in that calm voice of his, "Are you sure you want to do this? If we do this right, this won't just expose a secret. It could tear your family apart." I didn't hesitate. My sister doesn't need another apology. She needs to know someone was finally willing to tell the truth. We agreed on a plan. The story would be told anonymously. No names, no faces, all identifying features blurred or replaced with actors. The voice clips would be reenacted with altered pitch. The documents shown would have redacted names and dates. It wouldn't be a scandal, it would be a record. Micah titled the short film, "Daughter of Silence." We submitted it to a small regional film festival. Nothing huge, just a local showcase for emerging creators. To my surprise, it was accepted. Not only that, it was placed in the closing night block. It wasn't hyped. It didn't need to be. The subject matter carried its own gravity. I sat in the back row when it played. Micah had done it beautifully. Understated, respectful, devastating. The final shot was of an actress playing my sister, about 16, standing in front of a bathroom mirror, whispering, "If I'm not really anyone's daughter, then what am I even here for?" The theater went completely silent. I don't think anyone breathed until the credits rolled. I didn't ask Anna to watch the documentary. I wasn't even sure she knew it existed. I'd told her vaguely that I'd done something, a project, about us. But I didn't want to pressure her. Not after everything. I didn't ask Anna to watch the documentary. I wasn't even sure she knew it existed. I'd told her vaguely that I'd done something, a project, about us. But I didn't want to pressure her. Not after everything. A few days after the screening, my phone buzzed. Her name lit up. I picked up, expecting silence. Instead, I heard her voice, shaky but sure. "Thank you for telling the truth, even when no one else would, even when it hurt." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to, because that was the first time in weeks she'd called me, not just texted. That alone said enough. The next morning, she asked if I'd drive her to the recreation center near Uncle Gary's place. I hesitated. "You sure?" I asked. She nodded. "I'm not going to scream. I'm not even going to cry. I just need to say something." She walked up to his door alone. No script, no rehearsal. Uncle Gary answered like he didn't know what was coming. Like he could pretend none of this had reached him. Like he could still dodge the fallout. But Anna didn't let him. She looked him straight in the eye, voice level, and said, "I'm not your daughter. I'm the consequence of your cowardice. I don't need your explanations. I don't need your love. And I don't need you in any chapter of the story I choose to write for myself." Then she turned and walked away. She didn't look back. And I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. A week after the film screened, I got a text from my dad. Just one line. "Thank you." Someone finally said what I couldn't. No emojis, no signature, just that. But it meant more to me than anything else he could have said, because for the first time, he wasn't pretending to be okay. He wasn't trying to protect anyone else's feelings. He was simply telling the truth. In his own way, he stayed, even from a distance. My mom never reached out. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't comment on the film. But I heard from a mutual family friend that she'd started therapy, weekly sessions. She wasn't telling anyone what they were about, but she didn't have to. She was finally sitting with the version of herself she'd been running from for almost 2 decades. And that, in its own quiet way, was something. Anna's doing better now. She's not magically fixed. This isn't that kind of story. She still has days when she doesn't talk much, when she curls up in her hoodie and disappears into music for hours. But she also laughs again. She bakes banana bread and sends me pictures of her disaster attempts. She texts me memes. She's back. Not the old version of her. A new one. Someone who knows exactly where she came from. And is finally starting to believe she gets to decide where she's going. As for me, I didn't save our family. The fractures are still there. Some people left. Some truths cut too deep to patch over. But I saved my sister. I pulled her out of the fog, even if I had to set fire to everything else to do it. And honestly, that's enough. Because sometimes, the people who stay aren't the ones who never left. They're the ones who show up when it matters most and never let go.